Good morning. Welcome back to Day to Day with Greg Michelson. I'm here with a new friend of mine, Derek Crager, from Predict Practical AI. Yeah, am I saying it
Yeah,
right? Awesome,
that's
cool.
it.
Well, I'm excited to get to chat with you today and find out a bit more about what you're up to. Give us some background. Give us an intro.
Great. Well, I spent a lot of time actually not in technology, but industrial construction. Helped lend a hand building some Ford manufacturing plants, as well as Chrysler and Subaru and things like that. I My last 6 years though in corporate America were spent with Amazon, where I built their highest rated employee training program in company history. So that's the feather in my cap there. And now
Right.
here I am after corporate life, working with AI. And my philosophy that I'm trying to share with the world right now is that AI should not be displacing humans. We should put humans first. So it's human first AI is my philosophy that I'm sharing with the world.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, talk to me about the. Let's go way back. Talk to me about the industrial stuff. How did you? Uh, what was all that about? Is that related to the training work that you did at Amazon, or is it a whole different career? Or?
Well, you can say it's related. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in training, education, the industrial arts, so to speak. I came through the trades, tried to go to college, and it's hard to put food on the table with no income coming in. So I swapped over to an apprenticeship way back in the day before it was cool, and ended up working with some great engineers across multiple companies and that. So I stayed in the automotive manufacturing realm for about 15 years, and then left with my own company for about 10 years, and then I got over to Amazon. And then Amazon specifically, I was in their reliability engineering and maintenance organization. So it would still fit in with my background. And so with my background in the trades combined with my education background, I fell right into Amazon's, it's HR department, but I'm not an HR person, but training, leadership development, things like that fall under the HR realm. So that's what I did while I was at Amazon. They asked me to train a whole bunch of people, and I did. It was like the Wild West out there for a while.
What trade? What trade was
Well,
it? Were
at
you a plumber, electrician?
Well, I came through as a millwright by trade, and then I worked up in hands-on engineer, and then on the floor as well, and then into Amazon. Amazon has no one specific trade. It's they have technicians that are on the floor. They have the technical managers that supervise them, and then the engineers are what do the legwork in advance to make sure that all the facilities are laid out according to plan, so we don't run into any conveyors into where a post should be, that sort of thing.
Fair. What is a millwright? I don't know what that is.
Millwright is somebody that um, make sure things go together. If there's any type of motion involved, a millwright installs and sets and levels and aligns. It could be conveyor work. Different types of conveyors, whether they move cars, refrigerators, or TVs. I've all had a hand in. And then at Amazon, or really any warehouse style, about 99% of everything they do is on some sort of conveyance and transportation. So that was the connect there.
Gotcha. So did you start at Amazon doing that type of work, or did you jump right into the training work?
Well, I honestly, I was looking to retire and just do some nice, cool, laid back stuff. I figured get with a big company, do what I know, and then I could, me and my wife could kind of a retirement, working retirement. We're going to travel and spend 6 months or a year in one city, and then another city, and even go outside the country and just travel that way. But to be honest, I got so bored so quick. 3 months in, I was being pitched the educational role, and it was at the right time. We had attrition in those departments that was over 80%, and that means 8 out of 10 people were leaving in the first year of hire. So that just wasn't good for me.
Really? Wow, that's surprising. The types of people that you were training, are these like repair people, or are these folks that are shipping packages, or are they what types of people were you training?
Well, I built programming for the technicians themselves to follow and to train, and we came up with some watermark standards to make sure everybody had the right amount of training for the appropriate role. But during the growth phase in 2022, the plan was to turn 500 Amazon fulfillment centers into 1,000 Amazon fulfillment centers. So even though the company took 25 years to build the first 500, they wanted to double that amount to another 500 in just 1 year. So it was about December 14th of 2021 that they tapped me on the shoulder and say, "Hey, Derek, here's what we're doing. If we're doubling the number of facilities, we're just about doubling the number of employees too. Do you think we should train them?" And the conversation really started, just started that smooth. And so I built training for and onboarded the managers at all levels, from the local levels, the state levels, regional, national levels, and taught them how to teach their people. So it was a layered training.
Now, what is the relationship between attrition and training? It wouldn't be my first impulse to say, "Oh, people are leaving. 80% of my people quit within the first year. Let's train them better." That wouldn't be my first impulse. What's the relationship there?
Well, training definitely shows the employees that the company cares about what's going on. And when it comes into a technical or an engineering trade, it's awful easy to say, "Hey, they know what they're doing, right? They've already went to school, they've worked with other companies doing this, so we're just going to hire them. They're going to be our fix. They're just going to solve what needs solved." But they would come in and they would be left on their own, and a lot of it was not about their technical ability, but it was the communication patterns within Amazon. It was how to connect and find resources. And it was much akin to throwing somebody in the deep end and seeing how long they can swim. And it's just a stressful environment when you have a new employee like that in a company like Amazon. So the training really involved getting people to understand how to work together, and that they have resources and they can count on each other, where before that time they really didn't. They didn't have any supporting infrastructure. So the training was about building out that supporting infrastructure and making sure that we gave guidance that everybody knew where it was and how they could use it.
Got it. Fascinating. So it wasn't so much about communicating information as it was about providing a way for people to get help, kind of thing, get connected to other resources.
Get connected to other resources, but the major resource was each other. I built out a communication system that allowed all of the managers, regional managers, et cetera, to be able to, if somebody had success, they would share it and other people would adopt that success. And Amazon's a place where we never rested on our laurels. That's just not in the company motto. Everybody's trying to do something new. And so we might not try an A/B test. We usually try like A, B, C, D test. And then from those multiple simultaneous tests, we're going to have success. We're going to have failures. And what that supporting net was being able to make sure that everybody had a method to get virtually sometimes, but all in the same room to discuss what works and what didn't work, and then decide what they're going to adopt moving forward. So it really came down to the basics of business success, and that's communication.
Right. Wow. And did it help? Did the attrition rate go down? Did you get your 500
Yeah,
facilities opened up?
it did. Attrition dropped from 82% down to about 31 in the first 10 months. The first cohort that came through was in January of 2022. You might remember there was some pandemic stuff going on back in the days. We were training live and in person, so that was an added wrinkle to the training. But, everybody came through it and they did really well. So yeah, they didn't hit the full doubling that first year. It took another year, but it really smoothed out the process for sure.
Right. Wow. And when did you leave Amazon?
Gosh, what was it? I think 2024 officially in January.
Gotcha.
I wrapped up the training schedule back in fall of that previous year. So that was the last time I had my hands in the pudding, and then everything else just administrative path out.
And did you leave because you were ready to start practical AI, or did was the time just up, or how did that happen? How did practical AI get started?
Well, practical AI was not even on the horizon at the time. I do great. I was actually diagnosed at age 50 of being autistic and ADHD both. I think looking back, that helps me understand how my brain works. So my brain is always turning, right? The gears are always turning, and I need something to dive into. When we had the issues, when we didn't have the programs up and running, it was like the Wild West. I was traveling the world, training, getting to connect with people and building something. And it was to the point of once it was built, it's kind of like, putting train tracks or running the engine. Once all the train tracks were built and the engines were running smooth, I got a bit bored, and I
Sure.
think bored's the wrong term, but I just wasn't as engaged as I used to be. So I just had to find something else. And you'll find
Right.
that with a lot of people at Amazon or even the big tech companies like that. The average tenure of employees is really less than 5 years.
Hmm. Really? Okay, so tell me a bit about tell us about practical AI. How did it get started? What's the creation story? What are you guys trying to do?
Well, certainly. I my takeaway from my time in Amazon and all the 40 years work leading up to Amazon is that if we give people the right tools at the right time, people do amazing things. And then here we are with this AI perspective that's getting all kinds of headlines, and usually the headlines are polarized, like it's going to save the world or it's going to end the world. And I think there's an alternate path here, that we're at this fork in the road. And that's where I developed this philosophy that is human first AI. AI is great. Humans are better. There's 7 things that humans do that AI can't do, automation can't do. And these companies are great today because of humans, because of people, because of employees. And I think it was an MIT study that indicated on the research that 95% of all AI implementation at the corporate enterprise level is failure, right? It's not
Huh.
working. And the
Right.
reason being is you're trying to displace a tried and true path. Human first AI is using AI not to think for the human, but to think with the human. Just like you and I are
Yeah.
having a conversation now, we could talk through something, we could soundboard through something, we could go through a root cause analysis and develop something fantastic. It takes some give and go, some exchange. So it both develops I'm sorry. So it develops in each of our minds. And AI is actually great for that. The copy and paste to give an answer, that's not a thing. I mean, a lot of that you have to validate and verify. And AI just by itself is it's a system in a box. And humans are great at doing one thing, and that is thinking outside the box. So that's one
Okay.
example of where AI will never replace humans, because humans make decisions that are right when the rules aren't followed or when the problem doesn't follow, right? Not every machine out there has read the manual. They just decide not to work one day. And with AI thinking with the human, we keep the human there, and it's not human in the loop. That's a kind of a phrasing that's been around the last couple of years, but it's thinking with the human, because that human in the loop just means, hey, the human gets a report once a month, and that's about it. But the thinking with the human, uh, the flagship product of practical AI, using this human first AI philosophy, just sits in your ears. They're earbuds. You tap a button and you say, hey, Pocket Mentor, I've got this problem. Talk me through it. And there's realism involved. And it's very similar to being 16. And then the first time I changed the brakes on my car, and I call up Grandpa and I say, hey, Grandpa, you've done this before, but this is my first time. Can you talk me through it? And it's a give and take, because any type of linear solution doesn't work in real life. So that's how practical AI came about. It was just crescendo of thought patterns that I've learned over the years.
Gotcha. So is it a hardware device, like a earbud? Is that the product?
No, it's actually, I guess, what's the cool term the kids are using? It's hardware agnostic. There's no tablets to buy, no computers, no laptops, no server farms to buy. Pocket Mentor actually runs either through a telephone call or
Okay.
of some type of VoIP system. Like you and I are on a conference software, so it's essentially VoIP, right? Voice over IP. So it's all about tapping the button, and you're connected with the knowledge domain that is trained specifically on whatever role that employee is working on, and then it acts as a subject matter expert. And we have that role in life. Humans that are out there, we call them SMEs, subject matter experts in whatever domain they are at. When we have a problem, we call them up to help us find the solution. But the thing is, uh, humans don't scale the way that knowledge on computers and using AI scales. So we document that knowledge and we tie into that knowledge and we democratize that knowledge so anybody and everybody across the planet can just, again, you don't even need internet access. You can dial a number and connect and have a conversation like you and I are.
Gotcha. So I'm out changing my brakes, and I can call up and have a voice conversation with a large language model and get help on, how to replace my brake pads or something like that. Is that the idea?
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Nice. Got it. Now, in terms of like how you train these models, are I assume you're using some of the foundational models like a Claude or OpenAI or something like that under the hood, and then how are you teaching them the specific details of the particular um, um, subjects that they're being used for?
Well, we would teach them just like humans have been taught for generations. If you're in a work scenario, we have you have trainers that onboard employees. So whatever that knowledge is, it could be SOPs, standard operating procedures, as a starting point to outline the role, but then specific topics, whether it be about a specific machine or process. We take all of that and we ingest it. We actually use LLM layering. So we have one LLM that is organizing the data and we put up guardrails and we put up a essentially all the knowledge in a box to make sure that the LLM is pulling information from the curated knowledge just like a human would, right? If we have an employee that is doing something, even if they're succeeding, if it's not following the path, maybe it could be more efficient, maybe it could be safer. We want them to follow the optimum path. So that's what our AIs are trained on. And then we have a second LLM that is the interface between the user and the first LLM, knowledge box. And the purpose of this second LLM is to understand the individual. You know, we've come from a position of no knowledge distribution to one size fits all knowledge distribution to now where we can customize this so it's one size fits one. So it doesn't matter if the individual is neurodivergent or neurotypical or they're just having a bad day. AI is there and it's patient and it will tune in. So those are the two layers. There's a lot of your listeners may not know, but there's over 1 million different LLMs that are out there, and you only hear about the big three type of things. But we use whichever one is scores appropriately for the task, and it may change from company to company or role.
Right. Now, how do you do the individual targeting? So, does practical AI kind of learn over time what kinds of questions I'm asking it, and it remembers that, or how are you targeting? Because you said one size fits one. How do you do that targeting?
It learns on the fly. It picks up. So if it's a brand new user,
Sessions
it's going to be a
or
cold call.
between session? But like between
What was
sessions or
that?
within the same session? Like, I'm trying
Well,
to learn
during
'cause
the
one of the
session.
things that I really like about Chat sorry, there seems to be a little bit of a delay here in our connection. I don't mean to be cutting you off here. But, like ChatGPT, for example, knows all about me, right? And it remembers between chat sessions the things that I ask it and so on. So it knows that I'm, laying sod in my yard. It knows that I like to cook. It knows, that sort of thing. And so when I ask it questions, it'll say, "Well, if this is related to your, sod project, then here's how that might be relevant," right? Is that the kind of learning that you're talking about?
Yeah, it's the same way we learn when we have a new neighbor that moves in next to us, right? You know, the first conversation could even be a little awkward, but we acclimate and we adjust and we learn and we document, and AI is very good at that. And to be honest, when it's built right, when the infrastructure is there, AI is actually a little bit better in remembering than your neighbor.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I mean, mechanically, how are you I'm curious about the storage mechanism for this data. Is it, one approach might be to maintain a document that tracks the things that you've learned about an individual user, and then feed those into the large language models that as a question is asked, and just say, by the way, remember this is so and so, and these are the things that they typically ask about, and so on. Are there other approaches than doing something like that to make this work?
Well, yeah, actually, all AI is something like that. If you look at ChatGPT, I think you can go in the back end and it has a profile that it builds and continuously builds and modifies upon occasion. And our systems are similar. We have layering of text. We have different types of databases that are out there. You know, the cool terms are graph or a vector, and all these work together. And the whole world model for AI memory just continues to expand as well. It's kind of like a computer where you have the short-term memory, the RAM, and the long-term memory that is the hard drive. These LLMs are working the same way. They have memory set up for the initial conversation, and then when they need to reach back in their files to associate with another connector, they will. And that's all part of the magic sauce behind the rule. But yeah, it's very much the same. And AI models are all very much the same, just like our human brains are very much the same with the short term memory and the long.
Gotcha. Now, what is the so I don't know if you know much about Zerv, but my company Zerv, we have a an agent that's built into our development environment. We're a coding platform for data scientists. So if you have a data set or a database or something like that, you can ask the agent to explore it or to do analyses or build train models or whatever. And one of the questions we get asked a lot is, why are you better than like a Cursor or a Codex or some of these other development platforms? So I'll ask you the same question. What makes practical AI better than using, say, like ChatGPT or Claude to do this kind of thing?
Well, I think it's similar to your design, Greg. It's set up in the organization, the infrastructure. Just like I think I was asked one time, what do you call the person that graduates last in med school? You know,
Yeah.
doctor. So the
Right.
same realm. It's what makes something better is the infrastructure and how it works together. And as far as in the general sense, what you do, what I do compared to just talking to ChatGPT or Copilot or Claude or Perplexity or, there's even more that are coming to the frontier lines here. They operate and they're trained on all the knowledge in the world. And that knowledge is sometimes made up, right? It's literally they've gotten to the last page of the internet to train as much as they can. And I think was it Kimmy that just came out that as 2 trillion some anyway, it just big numbers. So the difference between the open models that consumers access is that they have a conversation, they ask a question, And the answer can come from anywhere in the universe that we've tapped into. And we know a lot of times that the first answer isn't always right. Just like on a traditional Google search, if anybody still does that, Google doesn't give you just one answer. Google gives you a page of 10. And then if what you want isn't there, you hit next, you go to the next page of 10. And the LLM models that are out there are much the same way. Now, it's delivered separately if we're in a lot of times text conversation because it will only give you the one that it thinks is right. And there's different scoring models and cool stuff on the back end. But that one that it gives you, you might even assume it's correct and build something upon that and then only to find out later that it's wrong. So it's isolating the knowledge. You take the strength of these LLMs that are out there, and then you isolate it to the knowledge so it can only pull answers from this curated subset of knowledge specific to what you're doing. And that's the genie in the bottle right there. And it sounds like you're doing it and we're doing it here. Anybody that's being successful here is doing that the same way.
We actually have something really similar. So when you finish an analysis in Zerv, trained your models or drawn your charts and done your project, you can create a report that the user can chat with. One of the big things that our users like about that report is that it's limited to just the information that was in that analysis. So it's not going to go out and try and creatively make up some other details or hallucinate potentially some other details. It's going to just use the analysis that you did, and it knows enough to say, "Hey, I don't know the answer to that question," kind of thing. So that does seem like a valuable thing to folks. Do you encounter a lot of?
Well,
Uh, yeah, no, go ahead. Sorry.
well, I was going to say, you just put your finger on the magic sauce right there. To make sure and give it permission to push back when it doesn't know. That's vital. That's vital. That adversarial approach to the knowledge, just to help verify that the knowledge, because these LLMs are trained to serve, and they get addicted too on that adrenaline rush, a dopamine rush.
Sure.
Maybe not in exactly the same way as humans, but it will feed you information as long as you're smiling, and it doesn't have to be right information. So when your challenge points there are critical.
Yeah, I found that the large language models sometimes work when you're a little bit hostile and aggressive towards them. Sometimes you get better answers that way. But definitely, there's still this problem, even though the models have gotten so much better. There's still this problem of just randomly getting bad answers. I was cooking the other day, and I don't remember what I was making, bread or something, and it gave me an amount for one of the ingredients. I think it was flour that was like 10 times bigger than it should be. And I said, "Look, that seems like an awful lot of flour." Like, you know what? You're right. That is way too much flour. And then it corrected it. But usually ChatGPT is great at coming up with recipes, but in that particular case, yeah, not so much. You still have the hallucination problem.
Well, and that's a great example if you're dealing with the open models like that are pulling information from across the world, a globe. It's trying to aggregate ounces and pounds and kilograms and grams and liquid ounces and mass ounces, and at some point it gets a little bit mixed up. And so we definitely want to, just like we would hire an employee, a human employee that's trained on a specific subject matter. My daughter's a research scientist, by the way, so I get what you do from osmosis sometimes, just a little bit. But
Sure.
you're not looking to hire a cab driver to do what you do. You want somebody that knows it, so they're biased in doing the right thing. And LLMs and the models that we select are much the same way. We're not going to choose a model that is built for something else. We want it built for our purpose first, and then we'll tune it up.
Yeah. How have you, I'm curious about the users that you have actually using your platform. What have you learned about how um, your users are interacting with these models? Are they asking more questions than you thought they would, different questions than they thought you would? What has been an unexpected finding in the data about how people are interacting with the training that you guys are building?
Well, it's they're using it. I mean, that's a big light. If we're my background, manufacturing, engineering, maintenance, concrete things here. If a production line goes down, nobody's making money. And if somebody has the information to get that line up and running, great, it's up and running. But if they don't have that information, what do they typically do? Right? They call that first shift expert that's there Monday through Friday, 7 to 3 or 8 to 4 or 9 to 5. And they say, hey, John or Janet, we've got this problem, it's error code 504E. Oh, yeah, well, here's what you do. And the problem with that is that if somebody's off work, they don't always like to answer the phone and respond. Everybody likes to take a break or a vacation. And the biggest part here, especially in the industrial meld, is that the trades have been short, uh, understaffed for 30 years or more. And the boomer generation, those that are, 50, 60 years old, people that have worked in a facility or in a specific industry for 30, 40, even 50 years, they're starting to retire in mass. And that knowledge is just walking out the door. So now the downtime that's critical for every production operation, every manufacturing and delivery operation, when it goes down, it's hurting them even more. It's not a hiccup. It might be a 10-minute break turns into a 4-hour break, turns into a 4-day break because the knowledge isn't there. And quite often that knowledge is either not documented or it was written down in a notebook that got thrown out with a filing cabinet, that went out 10 years ago. So
Yeah.
it is very critical that we get everything documented and accessible.
Now, do you find that there's I know about myself, right? When I call up the airlines, say I need to change a ticket. They have an AI assistant that will 100% be able to change my ticket. But there is 0% of me that wants to deal with that, and I just want to talk to a person. Do you find that same sort of like hesitance or like resistance to wanting to interact with a computerized a large language model over, even if it's over voice, with the training that you do, or do people seem to prefer it?
Well, the voice helps because it's, if we hear a voice and it sounds human, assume it's human. And humans like to anthropomorphize everything in history. I remember in the 80s, people had pet rocks. And we know it's a rock, but we gave it a name. We give names to our cars and our boats, etc. But if
Yeah.
we step away from that, we look kind of like the 50,000-foot view. Humans in general do not like change. And so there is a threshold on every point. The what we talk about in leadership development is change management. There's a whole discipline on change management, and what change management comes down to is, if you introduced sliced bread for the first time, people would be pushing back if they just dropped on their lap. But if you give them time to acclimate, and they say, "Oh, well, this is cool," now my sandwiches fit in my Ziploc. But for employees, for humans in any organization, if we lead up and teach them, tell them what we're going to do before we do it, give them examples, give them opportunities to ask questions, give them time to acclimate, because every human is different on how quick. And there's 4 different quadrants that we teach about change management. There are those that push back and say, I won't change. I won't change. I don't care how long it is. I'll never change. And then on the far side of that dial, there's the other group that says, you know what? I'll change every day if you want. I just like change. And then somewhere in the middle is where everybody else falls. And so at your best, you're going to get 50% adoption, but 50% isn't that good. So yes, there's always pushback on and every new thing. And anybody that adopts anything new, just make sure that you introduce in advance, you share it through the ranks. Don't make it come from the top down type of thing and say, we're going to do this or you're fired. That's never worked. So it's all about communication, and the places where that communication is started in advance is a smoother transition for sure.
So you haven't found there to be a huge amount of pushback then?
Well, there's people that just don't use it. Yeah, for sure. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's something new, and there's a reason that my headset broke, or I wasn't available, or this or that. Part of the reason that our platform works on dial up telephone numbers in addition to network is because there's a lot of manufacturing facilities that don't have network access. So we look to minimize that. We do look to learn from it. But the pushback really comes from, hey, it's new, and in their mind, they just haven't had time to adapt. So yeah, the pushback is real, and
Are you
it's not everybody's up for it.
are you primarily in the manufacturing space? Is that your primary customers?
Manufacturing, yeah, manufacturing, service, anything that's trade related is where the heaviest, yeah. But it
Gotcha.
applies to every job role. It's we're not looking to be the fix for everything. Matter of fact, AI is really it's a commodity, just like electricity is a commodity. And it's tough for people to adopt something that isn't appropriately addressed. Just kind of like, 150 years ago when a general store brought in electricity. They didn't become an electrical company. They were still a general store. Now they could, use refrigeration or whatever. The same thing today. I think we need to move away from saying AI this and AI that and just saying, hey, it's a solution. And that'll help the adoption across.
Well, I'm interested that you call it a commodity, because you talked about the kind of diversity of large language models that are out there. There being many, many of them, even though most people are only familiar with a couple. And you talked about how some are better at some things than others. What can you say more about that? Which models seem to be better for training in the manufacturing space? And are there marked differences between their performance and their ability to answer these type of questions?
There is. I don't have the test sitting in front of me right now, but anybody can pull up LLM rankings and see, like the top 10, what works best for gosh, what's the cool consumer stuff now? AI is writing songs and lyrics and vocals, and but there's papers, there's reports, there's AI that sits in
Coding,
meetings and takes notes. Yeah, so there's if you remember, what was it? Just maybe 6 months ago when Zuckerberg at Meta. He was like, "My God, I'm behind on AI." I'm thinking for him. This is his bubble that I imagine. We're behind on AI. We need this AGI. We need an AI that does everything for everybody. I don't see that as ever going to happen. Just like there's no human in the world that is the best at everything. The future for AI, as I see it, is that, and you might have seen these as well. Uh, Somebody at some point, multiple people have predicted, we're going to have, like, I don't know, 600 billion AIs or something crazy like that. And it's going to come down to the AI is going to be specific, trained, just like you train yours to do a specific thing. I train our models to do one specific thing. And if we distribute those, especially as computing power, edge computing power gets more powerful in adopting, and then the LLM models are more efficient. Um, what I see is that every device out there, every place that we go, we can walk into a museum and tap a button, and it'll tell us about the museum. We can go to our color laser printer, and we can tap the button. We say, hey, we got a jam, and it will do a root cause analysis with you. But it's only focused on that model, and it might only be living in that one model. So we maintain privacy, we maintain security, but we also have that exchange. And it's having another person is what AI gives us. It's not a manual. It's not even a YouTube video. It's being able to converse back and self and articulate in the way our brains work. Because the different learning models for humans, kinesthetically, people absorb through sitting and listening. People learn through doing. People learn through hearing. People learn through watching. And if we can have AI can adapt those roles on the fly for one specific model, well, then it's going to be a treat for everybody. And in the environmental space, it's going to cost a lot less electricity when those are specific. So, if somebody wants to look, if they have a curiosity on the multiple models that are out there, a great place to go, just Google Hugging Face. Hugging Face is just a repository of multiple models that are out there
The
that
open source.
anybody in the world can grab and download and run on their own computer if their computer's strong enough, or even find some space on a server and run. That can help maintain privacy issues, which have been at the forefront of AI talk for so.
Yeah, and you think that specialization in edge computing is the future, doing the inference directly on devices rather than on GPUs in big data centers with massive models?
I believe so. I don't know if it's anytime soon we're going to get rid of data centers. We need to have those um, number crunching ability. And here's a tangent that you might not have heard, but in the United States, I blame 3 Mile Island for our delay in building nuclear power. And nuclear power, for how scary it sounds, is the cleanest power that we can actually have today. And there's so many power plants today. People are charging their electric cars with electricity that was generated from coal plants. And even coal plants are cleaner than they were 50 years ago, but it's still they're burning coal. And but we have this delay in electricity, and now it's all coming to that environmental crescendo about data centers are bad. It's not just AI, but data centers are bad. And we're at this decision point. We just need to make the right decisions at the right time and think through them and be okay that we make a mistake or two as long as we're willing to adapt and adopt.
Hmm, fascinating. Well, Derek, this has been a great conversation. I'm really fascinated by what you guys are doing, and I'm curious to see how all this goes, how it goes for you guys.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on, Greg. It's been great talking with you today.
Yeah, likewise, likewise. All right, well, thank you very much. It's great getting to know you. All righty. Okay.